Happy Halloween, everyone. I'm Apryl Skies, and welcome to the Gypsy Wagon. I'll be reading a poem called Clairvoyant for you today, and I hope you have a wonderful Halloween. She is the death card held tightly between index and thumb. Dry flowers growing soft in stagnant water, heads bowed like funeral shadows upon vibrant green. She is runes and ancient stones, heavy darkness laid like cloth upon wooden slats in the dim. Spells spoken, eyes tightly fastened, glowing wax burning in meditation. Elements fused to spirals in alchemy. She is gypsy magic and moonglow, black prayer and pentagons, 9 lives counted in skulls, 4 corners. Smoke of burning sage, black prayer and pentagons.
Hi.
Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
I can. How are you doing?
I'm
Can you
doing
hear me?
great. I love that hat.
Hold on. Sweet. Yeah, I have multiple costumes. There's my life is nothing but costumes. So,
That's great. Well, I slightly decorated back here with like
oh,
a few minutes before, but it was kind of like a mad dash. So let me just say, welcome to Make Your Own Fun.
sweet.
And I'm here with Natalia Reagan, and you have so many like professional titles that I've kind of like lost track over the years. Like I'm pretty sure they all end with IST, but
Yeah.
I'll let you like kind of spitball introduce because there's just I don't even know how many degrees you have. I literally like just give me like the cliff notes here of what you're working with now.
Yeah, no, a lot of ISTs, including nudist. You don't know if I've got clothes on. You have no idea.
I have no
Yeah.
idea. I could
Well,
be
so,
wearing like an orange trash bag for all you know.
right?
So,
Exactly. I actually welcome that. I years ago I went to one of those like white parties and I own like 0 white clothing. So I took white trash bags and fashioned it into a dress without realizing that when you sweat, the white plastic becomes see-through. I made a lot of friends that night.
right?
Yeah, no, so
Unwanted friends, but
right. I met you, I guess, in 2009. Hold on one second. Dog, are you going to sit or be still? I have a pug that is being rather pugnacious. What are you doing?
what's your pug's name?
Raisin. Hold on. Would you like
Raisin.
to meet her? Hold on. Are you going to? She's elusive. What are you doing? More elusive than Bigfoot. Come here. This is her. She
Aw,
looks, yeah.
such a
There
cutie
she is.
pie. Aw,
We want to make her a spider possibly for Halloween, or just
if she'll let you.
if she'll have it. She's pretty chill. Our neighbor thought she was growling at her, but I had to explain that that's just breathing.
It's like,
It's like
it
me when
works
I
like
wake up,
perfect for Halloween, and totally it works perfect for that. For
right?
your neighbor, give her a heart
She also,
attack.
right? She looks like a walrus as well. But I guess when I met you in 2009 when I just had started grad school. So first and foremost, I guess I'm a science communicator, but along those lines, I'm also an anthropologist. I was going to school for anthropology, getting my master's when I met you, doing stand up at that open mic many years ago, and I have my my bachelor's in anthropology, my master's. But I before I did that, I was I worked in the film industry. So I was, I grew up in commercial production. My grandpa, worked for Pacific Title and was a director. My dad was an art director and prop master. And then I used to work for him. And then I wanted to be an actress. And so I kind of went in this different trajectory, even though as a child, I used to always have I still have them actually, recurring King Kong nightmares.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so the first time, can you lucid dream?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the first time I ever lucid dreamt, I guess, or dreamed was when I was about 8 years old. And I remember hearing the footsteps of King Kong in the distance. And I was terrified because what he would do was eat my family one by one. And
And you had
so
to sit by and watch?
yeah, and then he would eat me. I mean, I would try to fight him, but yeah. Yeah, like I'm some super tasty morsel at age 5, little tiny little hors d'oeuvre.
That's the way it is with nightmares, though. It's like you have to watch like everybody else around you suffer, and then it's like the worst of all is like the right before you wake up, and you're like, right?
Yep. Yeah. No. And usually, getting killed because they always say like you hear people, oh, you don't die in your dreams. If you die in your dreams, you die in real life. I call bullshit.
That's like a Freddy Krueger kind of thing.
I die all the time.
Waterbed, right? Oh.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. No. I get eaten by sharks, killed by dragons, stabbed.
I mean, at least it's a creative way to go, right?
Yeah.
It's not just like, whoops, there goes a dump truck.
Exactly. Well, that would be kind of, I don't know. Pancake by a dump truck. Wasn't that in I Think You Should Leave? Did you ever watch that show? Highly recommend. But anyways, the first time I ever lucid dreamt, I basically opened the door and I was at the house. Remember Ricky Silver Spoons, the show?
Yeah.
I was in that house for some reason, and I opened the door, and there was, instead of King Kong, and it was an orangutan. And so I was no longer afraid. And after that, I kind of fell in love with primates and primatology. And so
did you have a follow-up dream where you guys sat together on that like incredible model train that he had that went around the living room?
If only. That would have been a great sequel. Hey, the night is young. Who knows? Maybe tonight's the night. I mean, it's never too late until
it's never too late.
It is.
It's never too late. I have to backtrack a little bit to what you were saying earlier, which I don't know if it was the first time I saw you at an open mic, maybe like one of the first few times, but you did this great, I'll just say Eastern European character. I think that was obsessed with, was it Hall & Oates and a goat?
Yeah, it was goats
so
and oats. It was, I remember going to that open mic to go support my undergrad advisor, Wendy Berkey. Her friend was doing a performance. I think he was performing a poem. So I went to support. And then I think, I got kind of pulled up on stage to perform, and I was like, no. And so I just did this, hello, my name is Natalia, I'm a goat slut. And I can't even do a very good Eastern European, but the character's from a very small country called Yugoslavakistan, which is just a combination of all the Eastern, Soviet era. It was like an Eastern block of cheese. I think I called it.
It was
very
just like
silly.
the country that kind of ends with phlegm in the title.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. And so, and then of course I love goats. I always have had a thing for goats. And so I was a goat slut. I wanted to make love to goats. I still love goats so much. I want to love the goats.
And then the fact that you, because I've done some bits in my past with Hall & Oates, and for whatever reason, from everybody's childhood, because that band goes so far back, and people just instantly, like a couple of songs will pop into their head. People are like, oh, of course, Hall & Oates and goats, of course,
right?
It was like, but it was one of those brilliant things that I remember telling people, like after I saw you, I maybe even said something to you after. I was just like, it was one of those bits that it felt like once you did it, it had always been there. It was like one of those classic, like Andy Kaufman or like SNL things where, it was just like,
thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know, you just pulled it out of the ether or something, but I was just like, I have to say there was some professional jealousy. I was like, I know what goats are, I know what Hall & Oates are, and I know vaguely the whole multicolored edge of Eastern Europe looks like, but I was like, you put them all together and it worked. So
next time, we'll figure out we'll add some oats and some stoats, which are, do you know what stoats are?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Those things are vicious little ferret-like weasels. Add some of that, and I don't know. I think we can keep it going. I don't think it needs to die with.
It doesn't need to die.
Need to die.
You know what? There's however many years it's been since you've done that, there's a whole block of people that are just like, what is this I'm hearing? You know, like they've never heard of it. So you can always take that back on the road if you need to. I don't think you need to, but
on a boat, no less.
on a
See?
boat with like Andy
Yeah.
Samberg, yeah.
On a boat with a goat.
So take me back even farther in your Wayback Machine, because I don't even know this. Are you originally from California?
I am. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, so
nice.
Explains so much. No, I grew up in Northridge, so conceived in Kentucky because my parents like to tell me way too much information, and my mom's from there.
They're like, it's kind of a slow night. So anyway, Natalia.
Well, no, but both my brother and I think were conceived there, which is hilarious. Like, I was like, why do I need to know this? But we were, we both basically had the same birthday. We're born a week apart in March. And so they have not only a mating place, but a season, as it turns out. And it all happens in Kentucky. They say the water.
I had no idea. Yeah.
There's a lot of good weed in Kentucky. It grows like a weed there. So I think I know what really fueled that. Anyways, so I grew up in the San Fernando Valley and, I grew up in Northridge. We had the Northridge earthquake in 1994, which
That's
shaped
freaky,
a lot of, high school and things like that. Cause I was a freshman in high school. So,
Well, it's funny because now I can talk to you from perspective of someone like me who moved to California. And I have to ask you, as someone who grew up here, back then, I mean, now you're just used to it. You've lived on the East Coast, you lived in other places, but when you were growing up and like you'd see people come in and it's like invariably there's always somebody. I mean, there's tourist traps like Hollywood and Burbank and stuff, but there was always got to be people coming up to you when you're a kid and they're like, yeah, I'm looking for Billshire and Sepulveda. And you're just like, again. I mean, so many people come to California though, and was it just crazy when you were growing up? Kind of like, was it a wave, or was it just normal? Like, just everybody was just assimilating, or you could kind of like tell, like, oh, those are the new kids this year.
Those are the new kids on the block. Yeah, that's a good question because I guess at 18, I started working in the film industry. I used to assist my dad on commercials. And then my first acting job was playing a dancing chicken McNugget in a McDonald's commercial.
I saw that picture. I think it's on your website.
Yeah. And so that particular commercial, I was fresh out. I just graduated high school, I think less than a month before that. And everybody, that was my first real rude awakening that nobody is from California. Nobody is from LA. It was really funny. Everybody was shocked that I was from there. And I was also such a baby. It's so weird now being the old person on set because growing up, I was always like the child. People would make fun of me like, oh yeah, born in the 70s. Oh, now it's like born in the 70s. Holy shit, you're old. So anyways, I remember working with a bunch of people that were from all over the place and, and hearing their stories. And I'm a big, as an anthropologist, like what made me really fall in love with the field is its storytelling. It's whether it's cultural storytelling, through actual, oral traditions, or if it's, storytelling through fossils and trying to put together pieces of a puzzle through, fossil evidence or archaeological through material goods. So for me, I'm always chasing a story. So I loved it. It was kind of like story time all the time, because I feel like I was born in the San Fernando Valley. I went to a school in Woodland Hills. Like it's so.
And now you just sound like you have perpetual wine glass holding hand, and you're 80 and you're telling your life story.
Go into the Viper room and
orange groves.
Right? No, I remember the orange groves, but I also you go to the Viper room and like in high school and stuff like that. So it was like, oh yeah, the whiskey a go-go. Oh, news. Tell me one fields in Illinois. Yeah, I liked hearing about people having kind of these sort of small town. Like in fact, I was just talking to my boyfriend about this. Most of the people I've dated in my entire life as an adult have all been from the Midwest. They've not been from the United States. The Midwest is not the United States, everyone. I just want to let everyone know
the United States of California. Yeah.
I need more coffee.
Oh yeah, I'm working on that too.
Okay, cool. I've got we'll get to it later, but I have an official Butt Week 2013 mug
Oh, very nice. For
with
fuck's sake.
my own butt on it. Oh,
Oh,
that's nice. Was that for sake? It's a for sake mug or for
it's
fox
for
sake?
fuck's
Oh
sake.
God damn it! I was hoping it was
Oh,
ah! I was
I've
like,
had this thing for like 7 or 8 years, and people
that's
like
fantastic.
I'll hold it. Like I just started doing the podcast like 6 months ago,
Yeah, tell
and
me about
even
it.
with my co-host, every once in a while I'll catch them, and I'm like, I've had this fucking thing for like 6 months, and then or whatever on the show, and they're always like, what is that? They're like, oh, right.
Gosh darn it.
Like, I hear me again. Yeah.
I also have this. I'll cover up my one. So this is my Burning Man mug that's gone. I stole it, or I found it and like
I
lost
have to
and
give
found.
you so much credit because
Here's my
I
driver's
mean,
license, so you can get drinks.
You posted and talked about Burning Man, and to me, like, I'm just a goofy, pudgy guy from Ohio, and it just looks like I would just like you would have to like just douse me with like sun lotion or whatever. I look like I would burn. You look like you have so much fun there, and I look like I would just be like, when is the darkness coming?
Well, that's the thing is it really is about timing, like most things in life. And honestly, at Burning Man, usually the daytime hours are for when you sleep. You know, those are sleeping time hours. Because I have a little bit of the Jergens glow on my arms, but for the most part, I am whiter than I'm very, very pale. My mom is translucent. My whole family on my dad's side's Scottish. Like they're just like, yeah, and translucent humans. So I get it. Like, and I bring a lot of kimonos. One can never have too many. So yeah, it is tough. But I've gone now 8 years. The first time was 2011, and every
Did
year
they have one last year?
no.
Okay.
And they didn't have one this year, and it is to be determined if next year is going to be a thing. Obviously, they did have a rogue burn this year, which I mean, I think they did a very good job of being sustainable. Because my big thing as being an anthropologist and understanding, like, be it the Bureau of Land Management and how they have to keep that land pristine. I don't know if I would feel comfortable going to something like rogue burn, knowing that like a lot of the area is tribal land, or you've got indigenous people still living there, that like when you go there, it's really cool. They're selling their either fry breads or different foods and things like that. And so it's like I don't know, I do feel like a little bit of a sometimes a guilt of, are we taking care of the people who are basically living there as much as we should? And by
Right, and
going
on
to
your way
rogue
out, they're
burn,
like, please exit through the gift shop of the casino.
yeah, right.
You guys hear that? I'm lost. I don't know where I am. I'm not sure. I'm hearing noises and... Was that you? Was that you? Who is it? I hear you. Hey. Wow, there's a bird in the tree talking to me. How did I get out here? I'm really not sure where I'm at. It's quite dark. I shouldn't be wandering in the woods this late. Ah! Oh, I just ran into a bush. Oh, I was looking for something. I can't remember why I came out here. I can't remember why I was here. I gotta find it too. I gotta.
Right. So
I mean, as horrible as it is that the appropriation of like Native American lands and everything, like there's just this thing I think from like our grandparents and going back even further of like, well, they make a lot of money at the casinos. I'm like, yeah, but the whole
no.
like smallpox on the blankets, let's not go there, and it's kind of like I was just talking to my co-host about this a couple weeks ago, and you can touch on this if you want, which is you and I, being of a certain age, had different experiences than kids today with the idea of what Thanksgiving is.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's kind of like, and she made a great point. She's like, it's no longer just Thanksgiving. It's either Halloween, Thanksgiving, or Thanksgiving, Christmas, because they don't market it with like pilgrim outfits and Native American outfits. And I told her, I'm like, yeah, let's be honest. There was never a time when this great event happened and the clouds parted and there were like 18 perfectly sculpted Amish looking tables with everybody just sitting in harmony and like, pass me the cranberry sauce.
Give me the cornucopia of goods.
Yeah, that never happened. And it's like, at what point did we just decide, like, you know what, third week of November, we're all gonna have turkey. You will eat the turkey, even if it's tofu turkey.
The turkey industry. First of all, I just want to say before we move past it too much is you made a great point about the whole, grandparents. Oh, the casinos are enough. There's a show right now on Hulu called Reservation Dogs.
I love that show.
Yeah, Sterling Harjo and Taika Waititi. But do you remember the episode where it's like a grandma and grandpa age white couple driving through Oklahoma, and and it was really, I loved it because the grandma character was the one that was like, blow it out your ass, because he was like, grandpa was just like, they've got the casinos, they're making what do they need their land back? And it was like and it was great because she was just taking him to task and basically saying, you're full of shit. And because that's the thing, as we're kind of moving into, moving forward in time, and there's more Indigenous scholars and things like Twitter and, Instagram and TikTok are, great platforms for folks to kind of get better messaging out there. I think we're getting a better and clearer idea of Indigenous peoples were never completely decimated, even though, let's face it, a lot of our ancestors tried desperately to make it so. But they're very much here and they're very much suffering. And even like with the disappearance of Gabby and how everybody, was kind of coming together because there was a missing white 22-year-old woman, when there are thousands of, young Indigenous women who go missing every year, or maybe not thousands every year, but hundreds and hundreds of every year, and how they don't get the same coverage. And women.
Oh, it's totally true. There was just a bit on SNL. I can't remember the name of the woman.
Yes, missing black.
So like on my poster, it says wanted. I'm not wanted.
I know it's
I mean, we laugh about it, but yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is
no,
awful.
you have to laugh.
What was kind of heartwarming too about that show? I saw an interview with Taika Waititi, and he was saying that he felt a kindred spirit because he had a very similar kind of upbringing, with Aboriginal background.
Yeah.
And the way he was treated, it's just kind of funny that, the world gets smaller, but we also should be able to relate to everything.
Yeah. No, and it's good that it's interesting that, like the Maori and then, Indigenous populations here in the U.S. can find some sort of common, a lot of common ground, which is raping and pillaging colonizers, really.
But you know what? And the other great thing about that show, which we can all relate to, is at some point we were all teenagers, and when before we had cars, and we were bored out of our mind, and we were just looking for something to do, and sometimes it wasn't always the best thing to do that we stumbled into.
Yeah.
But everybody can relate to it on that level of just like bored teenagers.
Yep.
But
yeah.
But it's so much elevated from like that 70s show or something like that. Like,
right.
This is like not a show you've ever seen before.
No, and somebody was trying to rip it apart, and I got very annoyed because they're like, the drama is not high enough or something about like just they didn't buy some of it, and I was like, I bought a lot of it because it was some of the more mundane stuff in your day-to-day life, because sometimes teenagers don't, not everyone's shooting up in the bathroom, you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, I mean there's, I mean I really even though I've never worked in law enforcement, I really relate to the reservation cop guy. He is amazing because I kind of grew up in like a little bit of a small college town, but there were always those like local yokel cops that were just always like, like, come on, you kids, get out of that fucking tree, like, get out, come on. And then he wouldn't like bust them, but he always knew where the teenagers hung out and always knew what they were up to no good, because
That's so funny.
chances are it's the same kind of crap that like he and his, you know, cousins and brothers and sisters got into when they were teenagers. So it's just like that world weariness. Right.
Where in Ohio did you grow up?
I grew up in a town called Kent, Ohio, Kent State University.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You know, where they shoot students and all that.
Yeah, exactly. Just, peaceful protesters get gunned down. No big deal. No big whoop. It's cool.
No big
Oh, man.
But you know what? I haven't been back for a long time, but they've really changed the town. I was just interviewing a guy who's in a band there, and he was saying that they put in like, 5-story garages for cars, parking garages, and the university finally started making money. So they've totally like revamped the town, made this like Diagon Alley looking place from Harry Potter. And
what?
It's not the quaint little like college town I grew up in. Now it's just like, Akron's kind of a big city that's nearby. It's like 45 minutes south of Cleveland. So it's kind of idyllic, but it's also, every town's going to grow.
Gosh, I mean, one of my best friend in New York, her name is Rupa. She's amazing, and she is a ER physician and also Doctors Without Borders physician. She is a total underachiever, but she's amazing, and she she can do anything. It's wild. But she is from Elmore, Ohio, and so when I had kind of a very dramatic summer, I had an apartment fire in my Red Hook, Brooklyn apartment, and so I had to kind of scramble and like get out of my apartment, which had not been cleaned out in 20 years. It was like I got grandfathered in like after all these other people.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was kind of a nightmare for me, because I was like 95% of the stuff or 98% of the stuff wasn't my own. It was like furniture that I inherited that from the people that had just lived there. And I was like, literally just take it, go. And I drove across the country to get back to LA. And I was going to take, I had like a very clear idea, and I was very ambitious. I was like, I'm going to do it in 4 days. No big deal. But I had complete sleep deprivation before I even left.
You were probably pulling over the side of the road, and like you were thinking you were having like a conversation with somebody at the gas station, like checkout counter, and your version of do you have this, this, and this, and their version of you is you're just like, oh.
Yeah, or I was just talking to a crow on the side of the road, because that happened. Me just talking to animals and just having like, these moments of like, am I here? Am I alive? Is this a hand? But yeah, I had to stop. I got out of the city. Of course I left New York City at 12:30 in the middle of the night, and there was bumper to bumper traffic on the BQE. And I was like, of course. And for the first time in my entire life, I finally went to Staten Island because they were diverting me away from traffic.
Nice.
And I drove very quickly through Staten Island, and I only made it a few hours outside of the city, but it meant that it slowed everything down. And so I was able to go visit my friend Rupa, who happened to be visiting her parents in Elmore, Ohio. And I remember because I had an SUV that was packed full of stuff, and I was going to go visit her parents at like a party. So I wanted to get my good camera out of like, of course, the middle of all my stuff that was packed. So I opened the door and everything fell on top of me, and I was recording, I do these bad David Attenborough-esque impression videos. And I was recording one I just got off the phone with my friend Rupa, and she said, watch out for the cops. They're really rough in that like area, not like rough as in they're like, but they just like will stop anybody. And of course, like as I'm recording, I see, it's like, a selfie style recording. I see in the background a cop car rolling up and I'm like, oh shit. And, of course they're like, ma'am, is there a problem? And I'm like, and just minutes before I was doing a car change in my car. Thank God they didn't roll up on that. That could have been real interesting. But yeah, so my Ohio cop story was, thank goodness they just kind of like gave me kind of a, oh, you're a weirdo. Because I was just like, oh no, I'm just making weird videos on the side of the road. Don't mind me.
They're like, I'm just passing through and I wanted some footage of your beautiful state to show my friends.
Beautiful Ohio.
So they believe me that beauty like this exists in the world. And they're like, move along.
I forgot what that town, it was not Elmore. It was the town next to it, but it's like notorious for having like just on it cops. They were very lovely. They were very nice, but at the same time, I was just like terrified. I'm like, oh, this is the moment I say something really like, hey, cop, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. think I have some Tourette's
They're
moment.
like, lay down on the ground. Oh no, it's happening.
Oh, but back to the Thanksgiving thing. I just wanted to point out that hold on, I'm gonna put down this very hot pug is I'm like literally sweating bullets. Because dogs are hot, and I believe also her farts make her even warmer.
It's just that general morning aroma of dog farts and coffee.
It's really great. She's staring at me. She's like, but I want to fart on you more, Mama.
Right.
I have more farts to give you. No, but when I grew up going
Saving all her farts for you.
right. Aww.
Sounds like a Whitney Houston song.
That's my favorite song. Yeah. She's just such a good girl. But yeah. So oh yeah, I went to parochial school when I was really little, and actually I went to parochial school most of my life, honestly. But when I was in elementary school, we would do Thanksgiving with the school next door, which was a Jewish school. So we would take turns being pilgrims and Indians, which is a very awkward and a very uncomfortable thing now that I think about it right now, and yeah, it's, very uncomfortable, like, you bring the smallpox, we'll bring the stuffing. No big deal.
Who's
Sweet
going to be the
potato pie, that's cool.
General Custer?
We'll bring the muskets and decimate you and your relatives. No big deal. But yeah, I'm glad that, I'm like, for instance, Columbus Day is coming up. This coming week, which is now Indigenous Peoples Day. Or I think that, I don't know if it's official, but it should be. Yeah.
The longer we live, though, the more we look back at the history and we find things, and through like archaeology and research and things, and we just find out these things that we know to be true. I honestly think it's just a matter of time before we find more Viking settlements in North America. And we have like mounds and meadows in Canada, but I firmly believe they came down like the St. Lawrence Seaway, and we know that happened like 500 years before Columbus. So, you and I grew up, with the rhyme, in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and that's great for Europeans to come here. Not so great of what they did when they got here, but also I think it's kind of like, they need to put more emphasis on the Vikings, land hopping and coming in their canoes,
Yeah, I also think because that's the thing that I oftentimes gets ignored is even Indigenous people's accounts, because that's one of the things that we don't need archaeologists to tell us.
Writing.
Pardon?
It's the lack of records and writing.
But oral tradition also is something that needs to be taken into account. Because, like, for instance, a couple of weeks ago, it was an announcement that these footsteps were found in New Mexico.
Oh,
that dated back
right?
about 22,000 years ago now. When I teach about, the peopling of America, we talk about, basically there's this idea that it was a coastal migration, that it wasn't necessarily over the Bering Strait, that actually they took boats down, because we do know that they were doing, they had great maritime technology in certain parts of the world at that point. So who's to say that they couldn't have? But also there have been origin stories from Indigenous people about their ancestors dating back about that far back, but a lot of times archaeologists don't want to hear it, because they're just like, they want the proof in the pudding, which I understand. But at the same time, like, if they worked more with Indigenous scholars or Indigenous people, rather than being like, no, I am the archaeologist, let me put my pith helmet on and like go do my thing. Because that's the thing that I think is very frustrating. Even like, for instance, when people say, oh, we've discovered this new species. Well, no, white people discovered it. They finally stumbled upon it.
And
people in the region knew about this bug for, whatever, millennia.
They were like, that one well, we won't tell the white people. Maybe they'll kill them off.
Nothing scary ever happens in the shower. Horror movie, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, thank you, exactly. But yeah, this idea of discovering new bits of history when it's right in front of us, it's been in front of us, but we've like accepted this whitewashed version. And that's something I think is, I like seeing that change. I like seeing the discourse change. I know in anthropology, our field has a very dark and pretty gross past when it comes to eugenics, and also, like, doing a lot of anthropology that maybe did more harm than good in some cases. And so there's a great, I think, movement in our fields to do better, rather than, like Indiana Jones, for instance. Indiana Jones was an asshole. I mean, he basically was like looting and pillaging, ruins.
Just to put them in his local college museum that he worked at as a professor, to put the artifacts there. Like, they were never going to put the Ark there.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think now working with people, in situ, like in actually the country, archaeologists working in the region is, the best way to go, and keeping those, whatever, if it's material goods or even, human remains for sure in the country rather than taking them out. There's a lot of discord going on right now in archaeology of some archaeologists who are kind of taking a fall from grace because they are speaking out about them. They don't like repatriation. They don't want to see these remains go back to necessarily indigenous people because they want to study them. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. You don't get to do that. It's highly disrespectful that you think that you are
right. And the other thing too, on the other side of that, is it's so weird that it breeds this kind of mistrust and contempt of the countries. And I think that the country that's had the biggest issue with that, I want to say, is Britain, because they've had their foothold in early archaeology for a long time,
yep.
Especially when it comes to Egypt and Greece and like the Middle East, because there's this weird mistrust over the last 100 years because, like you were saying, with the artifacts and the remains staying in the country, now there's this mistrust of like, oh, well, they're learning things that we're not learning and they're hiding things from us.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, well, if you're in Britain, you've got a lot of things in your own country to dig up.
You had a lot of time to learn those things.
You guys are digging up like a McDonald's and finding like a Roman amphitheater, so fuck off.
Yeah, and it's an interesting time. I mean, like, I think we're kind of in a weird age bracket where we remember the kind of the old guard that were like, yes, we had those Thanksgivings. We celebrated Columbus Day. And now we're like, that was fucked up. Like, even my dad and I have these conversations where my grandma, before she passed, like, I remember having conversations with trying to explain to her how even like ancient aliens, things like that, where I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens. How absolutely racist that is, it's impossible that these, beautiful, pyramids either in Egypt or in Central America or Mesoamerica were built by people that were not white Europeans, so it had to have been aliens. And it's like, yes, it's not even an undertone of racism. It's like overtly racist, and how we really, there's enough out there to know that it's not necessarily aliens. And so
right.
We need to look at that from that perspective, or at least try to, and realize that, it is, it's very insulting.
Yeah. One thing that I've kind of, I don't know, once I turned 40, it became like I just watched too many documentaries. I don't know what the fuck that is. Like rainy days, I'm just like, oh, I can finish watching this show. And I'm like, then like, meanwhile, on A&E, the World War II channel. But no, it's like, there's this theory, I'm sure it's been going on for a while, about ancient Roman civilization where, because obviously they're like a militaristic society, and the most violent, like, warmongering empire or group or city-state at the time was going to conquer not only that region, but just any region in the world. And there's this thing where they talk about the Etruscans, and they say, well, why did that legend or mythology about the wolf and then Romulus and Remus come about? Because we're doing more, not me or you, but people in Italy are finding out more and more things about, this republic went back way farther than I think a lot of people realize, because you ask the common person on the street, and they're just going to talk to you about everything with Caesar and Augustus becoming the first emperor. But it's kind of like, before there was a republic, there were kings, and it's kind of like, why is that not talked about as much, and why is that kind of like lost in the mists of time? And it's like this convenient myth of the wolf and the two brothers, and it's kind of like, I almost feel like there was either an earlier version of the republic, and maybe that got taken over by the kings or the Etruscans or whatever, But I think what a lot of people don't like to talk about nowadays is just, we are still like a violent society, but back then it was like cutthroat. So it was kill or be killed. And I think a lot of not only the people and their way of life, but all of their records were destroyed. So I don't think it's ancient aliens. I just think that the conquering society, nation, whatever, they just wipe out whatever came before. It's just like the Romans took half of their culture from the Greeks. Like whatever, we'll take what we want and then just throw everything away, that we don't need.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that.
Sounds like long-winded. Sorry.
No. No, but in the terms of, or going back to the ancient alien thing, I mean, we have enough, actual Egyptologists, or even, non-Egyptian Egyptologists who can tell you who built the pyramids in Egypt, and or at least, give a very firm answer, whether it's, through written or oral traditions. But also, I mean, even in Mesoamerica, like I remember years ago being tapped to it was a production company that wanted me to host a TV show about lost civilizations. And of course I have to roll my eyes, because these civilizations oftentimes are very much not lost. Here, not lost. Like, for instance, the Maya, like they're like, oh, the Mayans, they're gone. And I'm like, no, the Maya are right there. They're wearing their textiles. They're speaking actual, Mayan language, like it's not gone. It hasn't disappeared. And, but it's just, it's sexier. It's far more romantic. I think people really like that idea that it's so mystical. And it's like, it sometimes, and that's what I think is really interesting about science. And I love about science is that sometimes the scientific answer is just as sexy or exciting to me as it was aliens or it was magic. You know what I mean? Like I think it can be just as exciting.
Science is magic until it's proven otherwise, right?
Would you say?
Science and magic, everything that was magic before is science now. And I'm sure looking back, people who about alchemy were considered wizards or witches and things like that. And it's the whole thing about, we never seem to get tired of like the whole Atlantis myth. I mean, whether there really was a society and it was on the island of Crete, or I don't know, in the North Atlantic, it's just like, okay, if there was, there was. If there wasn't, there wasn't. But there's no record. And you figured that society would have traded and had such a marine lifestyle coming into the Mediterranean that someone would have written something down or done hieroglyphics, pictographs, something. So
someone would have scrawled something in the bathroom stall.
Right. I mean, come on. You've seen that TV show Rome. I mean, people were just drawing giant phalluses on the wall right outside the Colosseum.
Still do. You should see my bathroom. My poor boyfriend.
You're like, I'm bored.
Another dick.
I have some chalk.
Well, that's also, I mean, that interesting is we have a lot of underwater archaeology now. A lot of archaeologists are doing, being able to dive and look either at shipwrecks or even just off the coast, because obviously with climate change and seas rising, some things are buried and we can find things that can sort of put together, like pieces of a puzzle, a better idea of what it looked like in the past, or what was it like in the past, trade routes. That's always fascinating, is understanding which people were, coming in contact with which people. You can look at languages too, and understanding like, the similarities in languages, and realize, oh, these people probably, there's a reason why these languages are so similar. And that's why, I mean, I love the field of anthropology. I mean, it's got 4 subfields, the cultural, the archaeology, the biological, and then the linguistics, the language. So, I mean, it's a really holistic look at just sort of people in general. And because it's, if you look just at one piece of the puzzle, you're not going to get the full picture.
Right. I agree completely. I just think that a lot of our society on the planet, and I don't know why people just dismiss this, or they don't want to think about it. And they, like you said, they want to find the sexy archaeological thing, is whatever we don't need, we just pave over. We just build on top of it, and we build on top of it, and we build on top of it, and we'll forget if there's no written record. But I don't think that the idea, who knows, but I think that idea of going out in Africa in the middle of the desert and finding some lost something, or China or South America in the jungle, I don't know that there's really like this undiscovered by white people El Dorado, or something like that. I think that it's just a lot of what we keep, we've just built on top of. And that's why like the country of England is so interesting, because literally it's an island, so they have nowhere to go but up, so they have to build it. And then they're so shocked when they, like I said, they're like building a new McDonald's in a bog somewhere, and they're like, there's a Roman amphitheater. I'm like, yeah, but you know what? I bet if you had the time and the budget and you kept digging deeper, you'd find something really special.
Well, living in New York, so I lived right across, I moved 12 times. I moved to New York in 2017 and moved about 12 times during those 4 years I was there. And because that's New York for you. And I remember I lived by Washington Square Park many times because I was kind of tied to the anthropology department at NYU. So a lot of my friends would go on sabbatical or go do field work or so on and so forth. So I would basically just like slip into their apartments and whatnot. So not slip in, like sneak in. I would watch their cats or play. I would just sneak into their apartments. I would take a rope and
I didn't think you were coming in like
I know, like all cat burglar, like, no, I actually just like watch their cats, or their dogs or whatnot. But, Washington Square Park always had construction, but a lot of times they would be like digging up the roads and they'd be like, God damn it. We found like 7 horses with, dead horses with, bodies buried next to them. Shit, and then they'd have to take a break, and they have to bring in, of course, archaeologists to do, like kind of figure out like, okay, can we build here? Sorry, my phone is blowing up and I don't know how to turn it off on my computer, and it's okay.
No worries.
It sounds like I'm popular, but it's just getting checked in on.
But yeah, say, though, that like that area, though, not even going back that far, maybe 150 years ago, about all the gang violence that's just hid the entire history of that area. Most of those people that they're finding were just disposed, that they couldn't throw them in the river.
It was a potter's field. No, so Washington Square Park. That's why I think Washington Square Park is the eeriest of parks. It was a potter's field for a very long time, which is exactly what Eric just said. Like, it's where people would just throw people who didn't have the money or the resources, or they didn't know who they were, and they would just kind of bury them in a pit. And there also was a hanging tree in Washington Square Park that was, and it was, and this is a park, I would walk through this park at all hours. I'd go get some pizza at 4 a.m. and walk through the park. And just growing up in Los Angeles, which has, and this is one of the things that Los Angeles, it's true and not true. We don't have a ton of colonial history.
No, we have just Mexican history.
Exactly. So that's why I don't like when people say, oh, California doesn't, we don't have very, very old buildings per se, unless you're living in like Reyes Adobe or something, which you should check out. It's in Calabasas. I don't know if exactly it's super, super old, but it's really neat. But you know what I mean? We don't have like, and also with earthquakes and things like that. But even if you go back to like I've spent a lot of time in Central America, and a lot of those places, similarly, like, you'll have a lot of earthquakes. And so there's a lot of these colonial churches that were built, and then they'd get destroyed by an earthquake, and then they just build another one kind of on top of it. But we don't have tons of that in Los Angeles. But in New York, you do have these super, my last place wasn't, maybe a little bit over 100 years old, maybe 120 years old. It had some energy that was interesting. It was a very, very funky place. But some of the stories that go back, and that's just colonial history. You know what I mean? If you go back even further, there's even, more, I think, fascinating history. But I just love that they do bring in anthropologists and archaeologists, and they're like, okay, let's halt. Let's get some people in, making sure we're not, doing something and desecrating bodies. We're taking care of it properly. But that happened quite a bit, I feel like, in the years that I was going back and forth between Los Angeles and New York.
That makes me wonder, because I've been to New York a bunch of times, and it makes me wonder. I've wandered around Central Park so many times, and one of the things I thought was, do we really know what's in that pond, at the bottom of that pond? Like, that pond has been there for so many hundreds of years.
Oh, the pond?
Yeah.
ఎన్ని ఉన్నాయి అన్న 2 ఉన్నాయన్న ఇక్కడ 3 కేజీ ఇక్కడ 2 ఉన్నది ఇంకొకటి ఎటుకొక తిప్పున లేదు అది గుడ్లు కూడా లేవనా ఇది సౌండ్ ఎవరు చేస్తారు సౌండ్ నా బయట మిషన్ వర్క్ అవుతుంది ఇదే దీంట్లో
సౌండ్ దాందే అలా ఉంచు అలా ఉంచు
అన్నా అది వెనకాల వాడు ఉన్నాడు అనుకుంటున్నా
అలా ఉంచు అలా ఉంచు
చూసారా టమాటో నుంచి చూసారు ఏమైనా
వాట్సాప్ పంపిస్తారు కదా ఎంత పెద్ద సైజ్ వీడియో వెళ్ళలేదు రే అది ఎందుకు స్టాప్ చేసుకో అన్న ఇది
స్టాప్ చేస్తారు వీడియో
అన్న బాగా గమనిస్తున్నావా వీడియో చూస్తున్నావా బాగా చూస్తున్నావా ఆ 4 కాల్ మధ్యన ఇంకో కాల్ ఉంది చూసావా 5 కాళ్ళు చూపిస్తానండి ఇది 3 అంటున్నారు బుర్ర కూడా కనిపించట్లేదు చూసావా అన్న ఫోటో తీయాలి
Oh, it's like, do you know about MacArthur Park in Los Angeles?
Oh yeah, where you can't really wade in it. It's just silly,
well,
right?
It's just I actually want to Google this real quick. I know they dredged it many years ago and they just found tons of bodies, which is I shouldn't laugh. It's terrible. It's not funny, but it's like
suddenly this episode is poltergeist.
Well, no, but MacArthur Park is really. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm sure in New York we don't know, but MacArthur Park. But in Los Angeles, okay, MacArthur Park is also a great song by Richard Harris. So of course you're gonna show me that body lake. Because yeah, I mean that's the thing is it's in a rough neighborhood and we don't know. Yeah, MacArthur Park dead bodies. I love it. Oh, yeah, history of drownings. But these man found. Oh God. Okay, never mind. Maybe this was a horrible thing to bring up. But I know I feel like drained. Oh yeah.
Well, I know the pond in Central Park is not that deep.
No, which one are you doing?
Areas where it's like really mucky. Yeah.
So which one are you? Because there's the reservoir, and then there's just like a bunch of different bodies of water.
Well, the one with like the bridge, I know that's like really shallow, but the reservoir's got to be deeper.
The reservoir is deep. I think the reservoir is deeper, but like I said, there's many different ponds. There's the boathouse, which has like the thing where you can rent the boats and you can float them on the water. There's one with the bridge, which is on like the very south side of the park, which is near like 59th, like right near Columbus Circle, and then or like between Columbus Circle and I guess Park and the reservoir. And I'm trying to think if there's probably like at least 3 that I can think of on the top of my head, but there might be more. And I mean, New York is such an interesting place because again, it's like a place that never sleeps. Although there have been, of course, things that have happened there that we don't know all the things that have happened. You know, things, cameras can be turned off, eyes can be can look away, whatnot. But I mean, it is interesting to think about what could have happened and we can do a whole podcast on parks.
Oh my gosh,
how creepy they are.
So we'll get back to that on our next episode of Unsolved Mysteries. But going back to you a little bit, so what made you kind of decide to kind of sidestep the acting and kind of? I know you still do acting and you've done your shows and. I know I have a few friends that were just really obsessed with your In Search of Bigfoot show.
Oh my God.
But that was a fun show.
That's true.
But yeah, so what made you lunge for that kind of change? Was it just since you grew up so much around acting and productions that you were like, there's an outside world? Or...
No, I got hit by a truck. Yeah, when I was 25, I got hit by a truck on the shoulder of the freeway. If you're familiar with Los Angeles, it was on the shoulder of the 101 westbound at the 405 interchange.
Oh my God, were you walking?
Well, I had rear end. So it's a funny story. So basically, I mean, it's funny now.
Okay, in retrospect.
I mean, it was actually kind of funny then because I have a pretty good sense of humor about myself. But I was 25, almost 26. I'd just gotten into an improv troupe because I was kind of going through this weird, funky time where I was doing stand-in work on a bunch of TV shows. I also had been working at Sony Studios, working at the store in the lot that sold DVDs and CDs for years. And then, I was doing that like as a side, like a couple days a week. But and then working on TV shows as an extra and a stand-in and getting acting roles here and there and then production, just kind of like, and also going to night classes at Santa Monica College. And, but I finally auditioned into an improv troupe and I got in it. And then a few days later, I was at this guy's house who I wanted to be my boyfriend. I was dating, he doesn't like this, but I was dating 3 guys. And because he wouldn't commit. And so I was like, fine, I'm going to keep, I mean, I wasn't serious with any of them, but I was just like, I'm going to keep seeing other people. And I was at his house and I was about to leave, and I was climbing into my truck and I was going to go visit my brother who just had his wisdom teeth out. And the last thing I said was, I'm not wearing any underwear. And I got in my truck and I just took off to go visit my mom or my brother at my mom's house in Northridge. And while I was on the freeway, it was right after a series of big storms. So it was really bright and sunny and really clear out. And I was on the 101 and traffic slowed very quickly. And I was going to trade it in the next few days too, because my truck was it was a 94 Ford Ranger and it was getting pretty crusty and old, and traffic slowed. I slammed on my brakes locked. I rear-ended the person in front of me, and it was a real light tap, but still I hit them. And so they pulled over onto the shoulder. I pulled over behind them because normally I would just be like, fuck it, I'm going to keep going. You follow me. But the next exit was another freeway. It wasn't an exit. Okay. So I was like, fine, I'll just talk to them. But I was, I'd crying and I said, hey, can we get off the freeway? This is really, really dangerous. And they were 3 Japanese men in town on business and they did not speak English. And I was like, son of a bitch. And so and one guy's holding his neck. And there was no damage to the cars, but like he seemed up like, his neck hurt. So I was like, okay, I'm going to grab my insurance. Couldn't find it. Called my little brother who was hopped up on Vicodin because he just had his wisdom teeth out. And while I was on hold with him, I was standing between my pickup truck and the car I had hit. And so I'm standing as far away from the freeway as I can. And as I'm standing there, a woman came up on the shoulder going about 65 or 70 and hit my truck, and my truck hit me. The first hit broke my femur. The second hit pinned me between the truck and the car. And then the way she hit me, my truck spun out. And so I got thrown onto the off ramp and landed on my head, which explains so much. But I was really, really messed up. I lost tons of blood. Cause basically I had a huge, my leg was kind of fillet. They call it a fillet. Just never sounds good if it's your body. They had to reattach all the ligaments and tendons connecting to my foot. I have it right here. I had this metal rod put in my femur. I got to keep it. Yeah. Right. Isn't this cool? Oh, and the screws are somewhere. I had the screws are loose. I don't know what the screws meant, but and then I had a really bad concussion. I also have had a lot of teeth injuries because I landed on my head. So I've had lots of root canals and whatnot. I just had one extracted, unfortunately. But I broke my clavicle, most of my ribs, punctured lungs, ruptured spleen. But that was kind of the wake-up call that what the fuck, what are you doing with your life? You're standing on a TV show, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not what I wanted to do. Right. Ultimately that wasn't the goal. I stood in on TV shows for a long time after that. So it's clearly, I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed being on set. It was hard being so close to the action, yet not being what I wanted to be, which was the actual person playing the role. But I ended up, was in and out of the hospital. I had to learn to walk again. I had a leg brace for a long time. But as soon as I could, I went back to work, and I had to make sure I lost my insurance right before the accident. So I was several $100,000s in debt, which eventually got figured out through, there was a program that debt relief program, and then, other settlement stuff that took care of it. But still, it took long time. And so I was struggling, but I went back to school for anthropology because I was like, what are you doing with your life? I've always loved animals. I have been, obsessed with animals since I was a little kid. And my favorite thing to do was to go to the zoo. Before the accident, I'd go to the zoo and I'd go hang out with Caesar, who was a Western lowland gorilla, who was named Caesar because he was the first gorilla delivered by cesarean section. And because he was raised by humans, he did not associate well with female gorillas. So I used to go, and he unfortunately was given not the best diet in early years because he was technically my age. I think he was a year older than me. So I'd go visit him when I was 22. He would be 23, but he was a little old. He was chunky. He was a little fatty because he'd been eating kind of a human-based, what would be considered a human diet. And so right. He, but I was obsessed with primates and animals and things of that sort. So I was like, go back to school. And while I was in undergrad, I remember hearing about Grauer's gorillas, which are a subspecies of gorilla, eastern lowland gorillas, which are only found in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And they were being heavily affected by coltan mining. And coltan is a heat resistant mineral that is found in a lot of our tech stuff. So, and basically 80% of the world's coltan is in Africa. 80% of Africa's coltan is found in DRC. So, basically when the tech boom happened, in 2000, late 90s, early 2000, or it busted in 2000 basically. But when that was happening, there was a lot of miners going in, and when you mine, you have to dredge up all the, soil and whatnot, which can be, it pollutes the waterways, and a lot of deforestation, which affects, of course, habitats of these animals. And then when the boom busted, some of the miners would turn to, either killing animals to sell as bushmeat, or to just eat them themselves. And Growers gorillas were on the receiving end of that shit stick. And so, but I understand, like, that's the thing, as an anthropologist, it's not just about the animals. It's like the people need to eat, they need to be happy. Thriving people means a thriving environment. So for me, I was like, well, what can I do? And it was such a small thing, but I did like a cell phone drive my senior year of undergrad. And I was actually I was going to volunteer in DRC in an area that was Virunga. So it was different from Growers gorillas. It was where mountain gorillas are, but I was going to teach people how to make compost burning briquettes, because another problem was charcoal harvesting in the forest. So people were going in and cutting down trees, again, because they need to eat. Like, again, I'm a very big believer that, like, I can't stand when people are like, oh, these humans doing these terrible things. It's like, I'm sorry, if your family didn't have food, you would do the same. So, but finding alternatives. So they were trying to find how they could take compost and turn them into briquettes, so they didn't have to go into the forest and cut down the forest. And destroy habitat for these other animals. So I was going to do that, but then basically the area Goma was kind of like going through actually it was kind of like political upheaval. The Rwandan genocide was still kind of bleeding over. There were these ethnic Tutsis. It was General Nakunda that was basically going up and down the villages in this particular area, and was kind of the kindest way of saying it, raping and pillaging. And the organization I would have worked for was like, you would be a liability. We'd have to air vac you out, and that's not good. So that doesn't help anybody. And I pivoted, and in 2008, I took a graduate biological anthropology seminar with my future, I didn't know it at the time, my future graduate advisor, Dr. Christina Campbell. And we got along swimmingly. I was an older student at 30 at that point. I think I was 30 or maybe 29. And I was 29, because she made me go to primate. There's this thing called primate field school, where they send you, well, you don't get sent. You choose to send yourself to, in this case, Costa Rica. You can go to Nicaragua. There's all, field schools all over the place. I'm looking into opening one eventually in Panama, I'm hoping.
Been to Panama, and you had some experiences there.
Huh?
I said, I know, and you've been to Panama, you had experiences there. So. Yeah,
that's where I did my field work. So one of the farms that I worked on is for sale. And so I'm trying to figure out how I can purchase it and turn it into a field school one day. But yeah, going to field school was like my test. That was like the test of, because a lot of people want to study monkeys, but they get to the forest and they're like, ew, bugs, ew, mud, ew, ew, ew. And I was like, I can't get enough. Like I'm in my element when I'm disgusting and dirty and muddy and gross and chasing a monkey. Like that to me is just sheer happiness. So, and then I went to grad school, and I kind of blew through it in 2 years, but I did my field work in Panama. I pivoted from gorillas to spider monkeys. And in fact, there's the Frida Kahlo scarf behind me. One of my really good friends gave it to me, and those are spider monkeys.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she had pet spider monkeys. So that's one of her self-portraits. There's also an orangutan and Charles Darwin in a bathrobe, puppets in the background. I teach biological anthropology, and so I try, and it's all virtual, so I try to make it as fun as possible. So puppets, masks, you name it. I'm like all about, like, how can I use, I have a rubber chicken that I just sometimes include in lecture, and they're just like, you're such a weirdo. But yeah, that's how I got into primatology. And right now, like it's tough, because it's, I did all this stuff. I graduated grad school. I did a thesis. I basically did a survey of a critically endangered subspecies of spider monkey. And I was supposed to, the survey was supposed to be done, and I was supposed to come in and help with solutions to this. Like, basically, we were trying to determine where the spider monkeys, how they were using the fragments, because when I talk about, or when I was doing my field work, I was working on one of the last tropical dry forests in Panama, and a lot of it is deforested, again, because the ranchers need to raise cattle, but unfortunately,
right.
when you deforest, you open up wind disturbance problems, you know? And so I was watching the area become drier and drier every year. So we were trying to talk to landowners about the benefits of reforestation in terms of making a healthier environment for their cattle, but at the same time also helping, you know, the primates and have more connectivity between fragments, because the monkeys were kind of getting stuck in little fragments and not being able to like find food or mates or, you know, cocaine. Just kidding. Although
Like
monkeys
you do,
on
yeah.
like you do, but yeah, no. So it was a really great, amazing time. But I ended up doing the survey, which was fine, and just a lot of exercise, a lot of chasing monkeys. I was in very good shape. But I also had a bum leg. I had a really bad limp for a long. I mean, I still have kind of a limp from the accident. So I called myself the Jack Tripper of primatology.